Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 53. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Victory Monday. Steelers Nation, as the Pittsburgh Steelers get a hard-fought, as they always are, 18-16 win over the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. A crucial victory that gives Pittsburgh some cushion in their first place AFC North lead. And so one of the games of the week, and Pittsburgh comes out on top again. Recording this show a little bit later on Monday. We wanted to wait until after the Mike Tomlin press conference. And though it feels like a victory Monday, it doesn't, because we're turning around really quickly to a Thursday night game in Week 12 against the Cleveland Browns. So Dave, a ton to recap here. And I barely know where to begin, but I'm happy to do it in a victory.
Yeah, let me start first and foremost. Thanks to Josh Carney, as always, for sitting in for me on the Friday podcast, and he's done that enough times with you that that went well. Appreciate that. My wife had to have an emergency appendectomy. Came down ill Thursday and went to the emergency room, got admitted, and then had to have surgery scheduled first thing Friday morning. So that went off without a hitch, just unfortunate timing. Obviously, she's recuperating. So shout out Josh Carney. Appreciate that. And sorry I couldn't be part of that, but you guys did a great job. So with that, it is a Victory Monday, a big win over the Baltimore Ravens, and kind of felt like classic old-time Steelers versus Ravens with the chippiness of it. And, obviously a lot of hype going into this game because of the two teams being atop the standings. Thought overall it was kind of sloppy on the offensive side for both teams. Overall, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But, man, for this team to play like they did, especially, we ought to reset the score too. It's Chris Boswell 18, Ravens 16 on this. But as sloppy as the Steelers were, especially down in the red zone, for them to come away with a hard fought victory like they did against a really good team in the Ravens, I think says a lot. Look, this team, I think they got something like a 96 or 97% chance of making the playoffs now. It would be something astronomical, unforeseen would have to happen for that not to happen at this point. This is a team now, I think, that's got to be easily in the conversation as a top 2 or top 3 easily team in the AFC. Still, got some big games on the schedule, and obviously 5 more AFC North games. But the style points. I'm looking for style points on the game sheet here. I'm not seeing any, and those don't matter. And props to them for coming out of that game with a victory, because it got a little touchy feely there at the end as well. So big win. And where would you like to start in all this?
Yeah, let's just start and kind of reset things and talk about the weekend and some of the moves that were made ahead of Sunday's game. Pittsburgh making a couple of roster moves ahead of it. They placed cornerback CJ Henderson on IR. He had a neck injury. They signed Jonathan Ward from the practice squad to the 53. When that move got announced Saturday, we thought, okay, maybe Jaylen Warren with that back issue, that those back spasms would not play, but he did. And so Ward was inactive for the Ravens game. Also, a minor note, cornerback Zion Gilbert was placed on the practice squad IR list. The inactives for this game, pretty standard fare overall. Knew the lay of the land health-wise. Nick Herbig returned. Alex Highsmith did not play in this one. Again, Jonathan Ward inactive, with Jaylen Warren able to go and played a pretty key role in this game. So overall, health-wise, entering the game and even exiting the Ravens game, Pittsburgh in a pretty good place.
I did kind of wonder, though, if Jonathan Ward would because word started to filter out that looked like Jaylen Warren was going to play even as late as I think late Saturday night there. I still kind of wondered if Jonathan Ward would have been active, especially with Michael Pruitt doubtful with his knee injury there because of the fact that this team hasn't dressed 6 wide receivers, I don't think, all season. And Scotty Miller had been inactive the previous game, and obviously not a huge special teams asset for the Steelers. So not drop your jaw shocking by any terms of the imagination there, but a little minor surprise, I guess, because correct me if I'm wrong, that's the first time they've dressed 6, right?
I think so. I'm trying to roll back in my head each week the inactives, but I believe you're right.
All right, because you had Ben Skoranek, you had Austin, obviously Mike Williams. So anyway, not earth-shattering news, but I did foresee maybe that going a different way with Jonathan Ward being active and Scotty Miller being inactive, but the rest was pretty much chalk.
All right, Dave, let's get into this game. Pittsburgh 18-16, the victors over the Baltimore Ravens, and I am hardly the first person to make this point, but it really doesn't matter what these teams' resumes are when they come into this game. Baltimore being the number 1 scoring offense, they had scored 30 plus in 6 of their last 7 games. Pittsburgh's offense improving as well. 3rd-ranked scoring offense from week 6 to week 10. Doesn't matter. You're getting 18-16 no matter what the offenses are capable of coming into this game. And while Pittsburgh, I think to their credit, is a different version of themselves in the sense of they're an offense now capable of scoring, and that is why I think you and I and pundits are more confident that this team can win a playoff game and potentially make a run at this thing. They still do a nice job in just overall this game, the Washington game, of making you play what is still more their style of game. The physical slugfest, a little lower scoring, a little less rhythmic. I kind of akin it to they drag you to hell and make you play their style of football. Washington couldn't play their style. They were out of rhythm. They couldn't have the crisp fluidity that they had been garnering throughout the season. Baltimore, a similar story as Pittsburgh continues to have. Lamar Jackson, and frankly, the Ravens number. They've won 8 of the last 9 games against Baltimore. And so that's kind of my top line feeling from this game. And you're right, it did kind of have that 2007 to 2011 peak of the rivalry type of feel in terms of the intensity and physicality of this game.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't measure up to some games that we've seen in the past, but it also included more chippiness, I think, and than obviously we've seen over the last several years with this thing. Especially the young and new guys got tuned up to it quick. Patrick Queen, quite chippy. Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier, quite chippy in this one. Pat Freiermuth didn't like anybody touching Chris Boswell. Chris Boswell didn't like people touching Chris Boswell either within that. So yeah, we're getting back to kind of, and look, the landscape, people will say, well, you earlier in the week, you had never seen Steelers going on opposition's podcast, especially a Ravens player podcast, the way that Deshaun Elliott did, I think with Marlon Humphrey. But times have changed now. These these guys are it's just not that same feel, and I don't think we'll ever see that kind of same feel of Steelers Ravens that we saw back in 2007, 8, 9, those years. But all that said, there was still a lot of chippiness in this game, and more than we've seen in quite a few years, I think, in any of these games. And yeah, you're right. Going into this game, I think the overarching thought was we might see a higher scoring Steelers-Ravens game because of the way the Ravens offense has played, and the way the Ravens pass defense has played, the way the Steelers have been able to put up some points in kind of recent weeks. But they were damn determined to try to, like you said, play their game, try to establish the run as best as they could, possess the football, which is something they did do. They held on to the ball 36, a little over almost 36 and a half minutes in this game. The main thing, they were able to move the ball at times in short spurts in this game, but unfortunately the red zone woes this offense has right now, specifically with Russell Wilson at quarterback, is a bit concerning because they're down towards the bottom of the league when it comes to red zone percentages, and to have the short fields that they had this in this game against the Ravens, and to not come away with any touchdowns, and to have to rely on, thank God they got a great kicker in Chris Boswell, especially when you see what all happened once again in the NFL, specifically in the AFC North with several of these kickers, and they obviously played a great one in Justin Tucker in this game as well too. But they survived. The defense, I thought the Steelers defense really came ready to play. I didn't think Lamar Jackson was as crisp, especially throwing the football in the first, 2.5 quarters of this thing. The Ravens got beat up pretty well, I think, on get up this morning for not maybe trying to utilize and Derrick Henry more and get him more touches in this game. And I was a little bit surprised to see this as well. But I think a lot of what the Steelers did defensively kind of dictated that. You saw them. And look, they weren't hyper focused, I don't think, on stopping the zone read as we've seen in recent Steelers Ravens games when it comes to Lamar Jackson. They were just more content of trying to play, I guess, more soundly, because look, Lamar Jackson, they used the zone read in this. Lamar escaped a couple of times. I don't think they were as fearful of him taking off with the football 12 or 13 times in this game, and there were perhaps maybe a couple of opportunities that Lamar should have maybe kept some of these, but just a real weird, interesting flow to this game. Turnovers are obviously, paramount in any NFL game, and specifically Steelers-Ravens games. And the Steelers, of course, had 3 takeaways on their end, one right out of shoot by Nick Herbig coming back from that hamstring injury. I think the main storyline in this thing is Steelers went into turnover battle by 2. Justin Tucker missing 2 field goals, and then the big 2-point conversion stop late in the game. I think those are your 3 main kind of takeaways, with obviously several other minor, major aspects of the game coming off of that.
Yeah, I just think about in games like this that are really close, the team that doesn't beat themselves, the team that makes the fewer mistakes, comes out on top. And as you rattled off, the Ravens miss a pair of field goals from normally clutch and consistent and reliable Justin Tucker. They're penalized 12 times. That's something that I think Josh and I maybe briefly mentioned, or maybe I wrote about a time or two coming into this game. But the Ravens entered this week with a league high 80 penalties, and that was such a big key in this game. All the penalties they had in this game. Pittsburgh had a couple too, but Baltimore had 12 when they turned the ball over 3 times. And so Pittsburgh this year, and I think in recent weeks especially, have cut down on penalties overall, have still taken overall really good care of the football, and of course, had really sound fundamental special teams in punting too. Corliss Waitman had a great game today. The coverage units have been good. Obviously, the splash that Pittsburgh has made in terms of punt return touchdowns and field goal blocks and punt blocks this year, just overall, has really been a difference maker in this one. So in a game like this, it's really close. You got 2 talented teams, 2 teams that know each other. Who makes the fewer mistakes? And Baltimore made a lot more mistakes in this game, and that's how Pittsburgh escapes with a 2-point win. I shouldn't even say escapes, but they earned a 2-point win.
Right, exactly. The Steelers kept trying to chip away in the running game in this one. They ended with 122 rushing yards. We got to see Justin Fields' package in this one in some timely moments. Unfortunately, the last one that he kept, he slid too early. There, felt like if he could have fought for that, it wouldn't have set up the final, 3rd and 1 or whatever it was to Najee there. But it was nice to see that Justin Fields package get implemented into this thing. Both teams were just pretty horrible on. I mean, they were horrible on third downs. The Steelers in the red zone obviously left a lot to be desired when it comes to that. And look, they, the turnovers provided them some short fields. In fact, 9 of their 18 points, I believe, came off of turnovers, which I affectionately have called Plutos over the years. Felt like there should at least been one touchdown out of that. The Steelers 0-4 in the red zone. The Ravens were a perfect 2-2 in the red zone. What else was there?
Well, let's just kind of start with the Steelers defense and kind of take it side by side. And obviously, a really impressive performance. I was curious, most of all, I think, if anything, coming into this game about what would be Pittsburgh's game plan. Would they do the same as they've done to Lamar in week 5 last year, as they did versus Jaden Daniels last week? Would they rush 5, play a lot of man coverage? I still have to go through the tape. I'm like Mike Tomlin, haven't really been able to watch a whole lot of the game back yet. The all-22 just about dropping now. Pittsburgh did still rush and blitz at a similar rate to last year, to the Washington game. It was a little bit less, just about 50% or a tick underneath that. Felt like they played some more zone behind, but I think Pittsburgh in some ways had a similar game plan, but had a couple different wrinkles to it. As you said, they really turned their attention to Derrick Henry and put more attention on him and taking him away. That allowed Lamar to have a little bit more success than usual in the run game. 46 yards on 4 carries, a 25-yard run on a zone read, another one that I think gained 12, 13 yards. But I just think it was a really good game plan with a lot of wrinkles, a lot of different personnel groupings to match, big nickel, 3 cornerback sets out of base, things like that, and executed at a really high level. I think just the rush lane integrity that Pittsburgh has shown the last 2 weeks has been really impressive. Jackson didn't have many escape lanes, nothing up the middle. When he did get the edge, it was against 4-man rush, tough to stop him from escaping, and Pittsburgh did a great job of plastering in coverage in those moments. So I just thought a really couple of smart defensive game plans to beat Washington and beat Baltimore.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you hold Derrick Henry well over 100 yards in this game, and once again, they only attempted 13 runs with him. Lamar Jackson had, on the 4 that he ran with, had 46 in total. They each, I think, had an explosive play. Yeah, I mean, and Mike Tomlin said this, no matter how well you contain both those guys at any given time, a bomb could go off and they get a big run. And Derrick Henry's big run was a big one. It could have been a touchdown if not for Minkah Fitzpatrick's ankle biting there at the end. So that ended up being, even though I think they ended up going in the end zone a couple of plays later with Derrick Henry on that. But in the moment, you don't know if the grass that you leave to defend will make a difference or not. But for them to corral the running game, and look, I realize Baltimore still rushed for 124 yards, but they've been getting a lot more than that in recent times. So I did think it was kind of a smart, laid out, somewhat similar plan to the game plan. That's why I kind of thought Washington game might be a pretty decent tune-up for this game against the Ravens. And obviously you have the familiarity between these two teams and how you've tried to defend Lamar and whoever the running back is in the past. And they've gotten gashed in the past by, as we've said, the Gus Edwards of the world and a couple other, Dobbins, a couple other Ravens running backs as well too. I did think when there was opportunities for Lamar Jackson to maybe he was under pressure a little bit in this game, and the Steelers really quite seriously could have had probably 2 or 3 more sacks if not for the athleticism and the ability of Jackson to get rid of the football. That one where his knee touched down, I'll have to look at the all-22. I haven't seen the end zone of that. I thought maybe Herbig had touched him while that knee was on the ground there. But regardless, they didn't have a lot of sacks. One of the times when they did force Preston Smith and TJ Watt were able to force him from the pocket. They were able to get him out of bounds for one of those out of bounds sacks that TJ Watt's been robbed enough of them over the years that is good for him to get one of those there. But Lamar Jackson, I thought, was off a little bit with his passes early on in this thing. high on a couple of them. And then, the time that he had one go down the field to Aguilar, which was an amazing catch down the right sideline. That one was called back by a penalty. He had one where Jackson did the Jackson things and extended the play and threw it to Flowers, I think, over the middle, hit him right in the chest and bounced off there. So got to break that way. But I mean, Lamar overall 16 of 33. That's less than 50% completion percentage. The interception, that's obviously more on Peyton Wilson than it is anybody else in that situation there. But smart game plan. One thing I thought was interesting too. How much of your charting have you done to this point?
I'm done.
Okay. I did notice, Cam Sutton not on the field a lot, especially in the first half. It seemed like they were running Beanie out there more in the nickel, and it seemed like most of Cam Sutton's snaps came in the second half. Is that correct?
That sounds right. Let me check here. I have my log taking out the no plays of the 33 snaps. Hold on. I think I actually have the wrong. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Of the 15 snaps he played, let's see, quarter. Oh, I think I have an error on my quarter. But that sounds right. Looking at my notes here, kind of loosely, that does seem to be accurate. Yeah, he was still using dime, and then they were using some what I call 3-4 nickel. I don't know how. I'm sure they have a term, a package for it, but you stay in your base defense. So 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers. You take off the Sean Elliott and you play 3 corners against the 3 wide receiver sets. And so that gives you a way to balance. We're going to handle 11 personnel and the pass threat while maintaining our base and our run defense. Did that against Washington. They did it as much, if not more, against Baltimore. It did feel like that came more in the second half. So those are some of the defensive wrinkles. They're big nickel, the 3 safety package against 12 personnel when you're facing teams with 2 legitimate receiving threats. And Andrews and Likely, Pittsburgh likes to use out those 3 safety sets as Baltimore likes to use, in fact, on the other end. So just a lot of different wrinkles. The game within the game, I think, was important to stay ahead of Baltimore.
How many snaps did Cam Sutton play in those final 2 drives?
Again, I have some issues with my charting I have to clean up, but probably a lot because they were throwing. I think he was out there for a ton of the snaps. Yeah.
Right. And, one thing I said coming out of that Washington game is I didn't think Cam Sutton was all that great, especially in man coverages there. And obviously Baltimore, I think early in this, they're not opposed to running 2 or 3 tight ends out there as well too, and going more heavy a lot of times there. But I thought that was an interesting component that was really easy to pick up just off of the TV tape alone there. But for them to only give up 329 total yards with how many net yards did 69 net yards for the Ravens came on their final touchdown drive. I think obviously was a great game plan. I thought Joey Porter had a great game. I thought Nick Herbig obviously had an impactful game. I thought the way they utilized Patrick Queen and Minkah Fitzpatrick in the middle of the field really limited things. What the Ravens could do in the middle field portion there. Cam Hayward, another great game. I thought TJ Watt had some impactful plays there. That blow up of Derrick Henry free runner off the side there was a big play. The Ravens shot themselves in the foot a couple times with some penalties on top of it. But make no mistake about it, the Steelers defense, I think, was that along with Justin Tucker missing a couple of field goals was the storyline in this game. And then, obviously the Steelers special teams because of Chris Boswell and the punting of Waitman and the coverage units and all like that. The defense is what got them out of Acrisure Stadium with a W.
Agreed. And just a really fundamental game. You go back to that sack that was credited to TJ Watt along the sideline. Pittsburgh's covering for probably 10 seconds, like literally 10 seconds on that play, if I had to guess. It's a super extended time. Pittsburgh's rushing for, Lamar's waiting, buying time. And I don't know, I haven't gotten a good look at the aerial view from the All-22 of that yet, but just to be able to contain and to plaster that entire time, really impressive overall, and that was the theme of the day. The defensive line had 3 pass deflections. Cam had 2. Dean Lowry had 1, 2 of those coming on third down. So getting your hands up when you can't get to the quarterback and Pittsburgh probably adjusted the rush, was a little less aggressive, especially along the interior, to not allow those A-gap escape lanes up the middle that we see quarterbacks do and Jackson do so routinely. So just from that aspect, really impressive coordinated rush job overall by this team. And then takeaways, the two. How about Nick Herbig? It's your second play back since week 5. It's a read option. You attack Lamar, you force the give to the back, you chase Henry backside and poke that ball out for his first fumble. And what's the stat? 538 touches. Pittsburgh gets to recover and gets 3 points just like that. Welcome back, Nick Herbig. What a big time play.
Absolutely. I mean, that guy, and Mike Tomlin said during his press conference, and we've talked about this in the past, even in small sample sizes, when this team's healthy and they have Watt and they have Highsmith out there, even in limited snaps that Herbig so far in his career has gotten on the field, when he's on the field, and that obviously that was a big play there. I thought the way he blew up that 2-point conversion slanting inside there, and the guards couldn't pull, and all that play, that along with Joey Porter staying at home and Joey Porter seemingly looking like maybe he knew the play or knew something was coming that way, read it well, and you blew up the whole thing based really specifically on two second-year players there on the defensive side of the ball. So I thought that was huge. So yeah, Herbig, I mean, I couldn't love being more wrong about a guy than I was about Nick Herbig coming out. And this, Mike Tomlin called him a prime time, big time player, again today, and referenced the small sample sizes. And it sucks not having Alex Highsmith all these games that they haven't had him for due to injuries this year. But it does, the drop off has, if any, has been minimal, if none, overall there. So I thought that was key. I don't want to make this the bang on Cam Sutton Depot podcast here, but I wanted to ask your thoughts on that late pass. Lamar Jackson kind of extended the play there. He's flushed out by Herbig and the pass went back towards the middle of the field to Hill, and he rambled for 24 yards on that one. It looks like Cam Sutton was supposed to really kind of green dog Hill, if you will, and then Sutton, I think, got caught in no man's land of, do I go after Lamar Jackson or do I stick on the running back? And he went after Lamar, and Hill runs free across the other side of the field, and then Lamar finds him that way, and then Patrick Queen tracks him down, thank goodness. But Queen seemed to be pretty upset, clapping his hands back towards the middle of the field. You can't see, at least on TV tape, who he's clapping at. But is that the way you viewed that play? Is Sutton kind of getting caught of, do I chase down Lamar? Or do I stick with my running back here?
I'll need to go back and watch. My thought was, who was responsible for Hill? My first inkling was Queen. I could certainly be wrong about that. And if he's clapping at somebody after, that may be an indication it wasn't his man. But I remember wondering who was responsible for the back on that play. So I'll have to go back and check that one out.
Obviously extended play, and Lamar out in space. You got to be mindful of that, because that guy can, escape and do things, like on a joystick and all. But I have yet to. I've looked at a lot of the offensive tape already, the all 22. Not much of the defensive tape, but that's one play in particular that I'm interested to go back and see there. So once again, I don't want to play beat up on Cam Sutton, but I mean that obviously could have been a huge turning point in the game, because that was a 3rd and 9 situation. Although they would have, I guess they would have went for it on 4th down regardless of the outcome there. But you give up 22 yards, the ball moves down to the Steelers' 24-yard line in that situation. So we could really be talking about that play a lot more had the Steelers not gotten the outcome that they wanted. Well, sure. They went on to score, but I mean, if you get to stop there on 3rd down, who knows what happens on 4th down? The whole complexion might change.
Yeah, Baltimore wins that game. Talk about, could you made that play that maybe prevented Baltimore from, lead the game tying drive hypothetically in that situation. So point well taken. Just to go back to Herbig briefly, it just the efficiency is off the charts, and as you kind of referenced, he reminds me whenever I watch Nick Herbig make a play, I think of Dick Vitale, like the primetime players, the PTPs, like that's what I think of in my head. That calls in my head from Vitale whenever I see Herbig make those kinds of plays, and so just really excited for him. And then Patrick Queen ripping the ball. I mean, that's an innocuous end to half tight end screen when you feel like, okay, you're going to be down 7-6 at halftime against Baltimore. Get the ball at halftime and kind of take it from there. And you go to any training camp practice in Latrobe, and you'll hear the defensive players, the coaches, at the end of every single rep calling out ball search, which is to take the football away. There's such an emphasis on takeaways and the turnover circuit drills they do in practice that really ramped up once Terrell Austin got hired in 2019. And then promoted to replace Keith Butler as DC a couple years later. And it's no coincidence that Pittsburgh's takeaways have really rocketed up over that time span. And so for Queen to rip the ball out and then go recover his own fumble too, just a fantastic play. And I got to give credit to Keeanu Benton on that play for hustling, for tracking down that screen, retracing, and making that tackle and really wrapping up likely at the legs. And that allowed Queen to go for the football, because typically the rule is, first guy wraps, second guy goes for the punch out or the rip out. And, Benton had him secured. If Benton doesn't do that and Queen's got to make the tackle solo, he's probably not focused on taking the football away. He's just got to get likely down on the ground. And Benton's done a great job in the screen game this year. The whole defense, the last several weeks, I keep meaning to write a post on this, and hopefully I'll do so before the Browns game. Pittsburgh has defended the screen game exceptionally well this year. Receiver screen game, tight end screen game, running back screen game. They have been all over those things, and that's an underrated element of Pittsburgh's defensive in their play right now. But I thought Benton had just a great chase play that turns into a turnover that was a real turning point.
Dad, how many times we hear the stories about John Mitchell talk when he's defensive line coach and all, talking about, if you don't chase the football, you're not going to be on the field. So that's obviously carrying over there. But I thought the front overall, sans, Lamar escaping a couple of times in the Derrick Henry long run, I thought was sound overall. I thought the tackling for the most part was very, very sound. And man, how about that play by Peyton Wilson? I just can't get over the interception.
I don't know how he did it. I still don't know how he actually put the ball away and secured it.
Yeah, not only he went under instead of over on that to get there. I think he talked about that after the game. But if you go back and look at a couple of great angles of that, the way even on his way down, it looks like he's still jamming his right arm up into the catch, into the catch pocket there, and it would have been a tremendous play if he just forces an incomplete pass in that situation. But to have the wherewithal to come down with that on top of it, and Mike Tomlin talked about, look, that's a component that we knew they like to do with that wheel with the running back in that situation, prep for it and all, and to deliver a big time play and a big time moment of the game like that, man, yeah. What can you say about a rookie doing that there? So tremendous there, especially that came on the heels of a turnover too, didn't it?
That was off the Russ interception,
right?
Yeah.
Off the Russ interception there. So yeah, look, I don't think there's any other way to look at this game overall, and not think the big role that the defense played in this win.
Just an incredible play by Peyton Wilson. Played it like a cornerback. You're in trail technique, so you're not looking back for the football, because all these corners, you see guys, they try to look back. Buddy, they're not throwing the football to you. They're throwing the football to the intended receiver. And so when you turn your head, you look back for the ball, you're not in phase, you're slowing down. And so you're never going to be able to close that gap behind the guy you're trailing. So Wilson does not do that. He just runs and meets the ball at the catch point. And then, like you said, gets his hand between the hands of Justice Hill to help separate Hill's hands on the way down. And again, I don't know how he curled his arm around to secure that one. He did. And so kudos to him, but played that one like a corner and had the ball skills of a receiver on that one. And what a big time play. That is on Baltimore State. They had run that against Denver 2 weeks ago. in the same formation, different down distance, and they converted that for a 20-plus yard gain. They actually ran that concept earlier in the game against Baltimore, where Baltimore did against Pittsburgh on that long catch and run Zay Flowers had. They had the same concept, that curl wheel or rail route left side, and Wilson actually went over the top of that one, but he collided with Joey Porter Jr. in that moment and kind of got Porter bumped off. And so I think he went under it the second time on that interception because he didn't want to run into Porter again. That did put him in trail technique, but he was able to recover. So good film study, good recognition, and a big time play.
Yeah, I agree. And, we got to see, because of some of the alignments and all, Joey Porter actually more in the slot in a couple of coverages in this situation because of over, having the receivers to one side there. I thought Porter, once again, big play at the end of the game on a 2-point conversion, had a nice pass breakup, and it was a good rebound game for him overall. And Mike Tomlin had said, look, and he still didn't think the game against Washington was all that bad overall. But
disagree.
I disagree as well. But whatever you want to think of that game against Washington, I thought Joey Porter really rose to the occasion. He's a smart kid. He's become a lot more reliable, physical guy against the run, coming up and sticking his face in the fan, if you will. And how many times we talk about games come down to just a few plays a lot of times that you can circle, and that 2-point play was definitely one of those ones that you could circle, perhaps the biggest play in the game.
And Porter has the one thing every corner that's worth their weight needs to have. And that's a short-term memory.
Right.
Able to put the Washington game behind him, because it's going to happen. When you're a corner, especially the number one corner, and you're routinely facing some top matchups, you're going to get targeted a lot in some big-time moments. You're going to get beat. You're going to give up some plays. It's going to happen to virtually every corner in the NFL. How do you bounce back from that? And he does. And the penalties have been a problem at times, but it's literally been concentrated to 2 games. The Denver game, he had 3. The Commanders game, he had 3. Aside from that, I think he's been called for 1 penalty in all the other games. So it just kind of with this weird stacking of penalties. But just overall, short-term memory for Porter, really competitive guy. And yeah, his tackling's improved, his physicality's improved, his zone coverage skills has improved, and he's still, of course, a really capable man coverage corner. And also played hurt too. That shin contusion. I mean, it's something that won't prevent him from playing against Cleveland. Not a structural issue, but I'm sure painful in a physical game against Baltimore. So to set the edge there when you're hurt and you're kind of playing on 1.5 legs, really good stuff from him.
You had a couple of key bat downs in this game too. Cameron Hayward got one of them, and Dean Lowry got his hands up on one of them as well too. So there, you can go all over this defense, for plays made in this game. And yeah, I was just enthralled with, because I thought Ravens were going to be able to score a few more points than that. Once again, I didn't think Lamar was as sharp early in this game. Overall, I thought they probably went into this with a little bit of different mindset with the zone read of Jackson, because how could you not? Because if you're spending too much focus on, and we've seen in the past too that the Steelers pay too much mind to trying to widen that edge to limit Lamar. If he were to keep it in those situations, that it opens up that C gap, and guys go off on him that way. So just smartly executed overall. And once again, I thought the tackling was pretty good overall. And yeah, they did give up. How many explosive plays did they give up in this one?
There were a couple.
Yeah, they gave up, looks like 5 in total. 2 of them came in the fourth quarter there. So you had that. Looked like they just got caught with their pants down on that early one to Likely, acting like he's blocking and releasing.
That's a tough play to defend. It looks like quarterback power, and they throw over the top.
Right. Let's see. Henry busted him for that 31 yards. Lamar got around left end for 25. That in-breaking route to Flowers for 23, and then the play, the extended play to Hill that we already talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're going to give up some. Lamar wasn't efficient, but he had a couple big plays, but nothing that broke you as a defense. And you tackled all those plays. You got those guys on the ground, had some blades of grass to defend, and live to fight another day. So really impressive defensive performance overall, situational football, even the 2-point conversion Mike Tomlin talking about, little thing, but taking that time out right as Baltimore was about to run that play, which I didn't get the sense immediately, but I'm sure people have probably watched it back more than I have and focused in on it. But apparently Baltimore seemed like they were going to run a little pop pass, like Lamar was going to fake a quarterback power and throw over the top. I looked like quarterback power to me. I didn't see a receiver sprinting out, but I certainly could have missed one. I wasn't really looking back forward.
I think likely the only one coming from that far side.
I didn't check the whole play. My initial just thought was, they snapped the ball, looked like quarterback power or designed quarterback run. Maybe there was an element off of that, but either way, you kind of force Baltimore to scrap that play because it's on tape or it's on the field. Make them go to their second play they want to go to, and I'm not even sure what the intent of the actual play that was run was. It felt like they were trying to get somebody. It was supposed to be a receiver in the pattern. It kind of felt like Baltimore against the Bengals on Thursday night in Week 10 hit Aguilar on a 6-yard touchdown off a fake quarterback power right side, and Cincinnati attacked it, and Aguilar was standing all alone in the end zone. I think they wanted to do the same from the other side. Baltimore ran that to the right against the Bengals. They went left against Pittsburgh, and nobody leaked out. So I don't know what happened, but either way, good use of time out there. And of course, making the big play. And that's now the second Steelers-Ravens game that's come down to a 2-point conversion. What year was it? 2021, I want to say. That 2-point conversion, Lamar tried to hit Mark Andrews in the right flat, and TJ Watt got some pressure, and the pass was incomplete. Baltimore went for the win in that instance and didn't convert. And so just how close these games are. Two of them in the last couple years have come down to game-deciding 2-point conversion attempts.
Look, you held their wide receivers, Flowers, Bateman, Wallace, and Deontay and Aguilar to 5 catches in this game.
Wow, is that it?
Yeah. And Mark Andrews only had 2 catches for 22 yards. He has injured. Thought I saw something. Andrews is yet to score a touchdown against the Steelers. Is that right?
Is it? I honestly don't know.
I thought somebody floated that out there. I meant to double check that.
Really cool stat. It's a quality stat of the weird if that's true.
And I don't think Lamar has a rushing touchdown against the Steelers, does he?
Yeah, I know he does not. They mentioned that during the broadcast. He, of course, did not have one in this game. So Pittsburgh certainly is able to combat and does a great job of taking away your stars and top guys better than probably any other defensive outfit in football right now.
And key stat, obviously third downs. The Ravens were 4 of 11. I think they had only had one. What was in the first half? It was both. Neither team was able to do anything on third down really until the second half, and even then it was really muted after that. But props to the Steelers defense and props to Chris Boswell.
That stat is correct. In 10 games against Pittsburgh, Mark Andrews, 44 receptions, 478 yards, and 0 touchdowns. For comparison's sake, he's played the Bengals and Browns a bit more, 13 times each, but he's got 10 touchdowns against the Browns and 8 against the Bengals and 0 against Pittsburgh. So fantastic stats, whoever pulled that one.
All right.
Anything else here defensively? Any other thoughts? Anything concerning? It's hard to even think about a bad performance. Dante Jackson's probably shown some regression. Gave up that touchdown to Zay Flowers that made it 18-16. Tough route to cover, outside leverage on the post, but I think Jackson is not quite played as sharp as he was at the beginning of the season.
No, I think you really boil it down to really the just the explosive plays that the Ravens were able to get, which you're going to get popped for a couple of them in games, but how those things happen, I think was maybe I don't want to say a concern, but really the biggest element to Baltimore being able to move the football.
And as you noted, Deontay Johnson in his return to Pittsburgh, a donut, 2 targets, both downfield, both incomplete. And so he talked about post-game. He was happy to be back in Pittsburgh, see some of his former teammates, meet Mike Tomlin again, had a good conversation, he said. So I wish him well. We'll see him in Week 16, but a quiet day for Deontay Johnson.
Right.
Just a quick note before we get into the Steelers offense from an injury standpoint, kind of mentioned this top of the show, but Mike Tomlin having his Monday press conference because of the Thursday game against Cleveland. Big sigh of relief, I should say. Keeanu Benton, according to Tomlin, non-issue. Still don't know what the injury exactly was. Some sort of lower body thing, I think, but should be good to go. And so I was worried about that one. He had a good game and happy he'll be able to play or not miss much, if any, time. Doesn't look like Alex Highsmith will play. with that ankle sprain. Kind of figured that on a short
Right.
week, unlikely to happen. Tomlin didn't guarantee that, but said if you ask me right now, he's more likely to be out than in. But otherwise, coming out of the Ravens game, no real injuries. Porter had the contusion. He's going to be okay. Everything else pretty status quo. Tomlin optimistic about the likes of Michael Pruitt, who did not play due to a knee injury. Corey Trice Jr. did not play, was ruled out of this game, still on IR, but there's a chance he could play against Cleveland. And so that'll be good to get some reinforcements potentially. To come out of a Steelers Ravens game without any major injuries is uncommon and certainly really important on a short week on the road. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, especially as chippy as that game was at different points within it as well, too. And the Ravens got we'll have to see what happens with them. And obviously Roquan Smith, but he had to leave the game with a hamstring injury. I think they had another guy or two kind of banged up in that one. So for Steelers Ravens to come out on, like you said, on a short week with bumps and bruises per se. And look, they have this is Monday. We're recording this short week. The Steelers' first injury report will be out later this afternoon. It will be what they probably call an estimated injury report. It will probably be long. It'll probably include a lot of guys with rest next to their name, and the key day obviously will be Wednesday. When's
the final one?
Oh, is the final one
Monday,
Wednesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday? Yeah,
okay,
Monday,
yeah,
Tuesday, and
Wednesday. So that will be the one to obviously watch on this short week.
Yeah, like you said, don't be alarmed if it's a super long list of names and a lot of limited and DNPs coming, 24 hours off of a game. Don't typically practice on a Monday. Usually no one's practicing until Wednesday. They're going to be really conservative. And again, having played another AFC North game on the road, you're going to see a lot of guys held out. You're not going to get a lot of reps, no matter, what the health and status of these guys are. You're going to get maybe one good day of practice. So don't be alarmed. As you said, the Wednesday report, the key one, and as of now, Pittsburgh should be at generally full health with the exception of Alex Highsmith.
Let's hope so.
All right, going into the Steelers offense in this one, certainly an uneven performance. The red zone issues continue to rear their ugly head. Russell Wilson, not his best day. I do think Baltimore's defense is better than what some of the media, national pundits have given them credit for. I think they have a talented secondary. They had the number one run defense in football, and so that's always going to be a challenge when they're making teams one-dimensional and taking away some of the run game stuff. I just kind of go back to an earlier comment that you made, Dave, and I hopefully will write about this for tomorrow. The kids are all right because you just look at the intensity that Zach Frazier, that Mason McCormick brought, and those guys really bought into the message that Mike Tomlin talked about throughout the week about what Steelers Ravens means. But you can hear that, you got to really feel it and experience it and live it. And those guys came out with an edge, with an ability to set the tone and really kind of play into what this game means. And so I really appreciate that. They probably were crossing lines a little bit earlier. Broderick Jones as well. Mike Tomlin talked about it at halftime. They kind of calmed things down. But as Tomlin always says, he'd rather say whoa than sick 'em. And I just like the energy that Pittsburgh brought to really get up for this game.
Yeah, and you the little skirmish that Broderick Jones was involved with, you could tell Mike Tomlin was upset about that. Broderick Jones was I almost can read the lips of Broderick Jones almost saying that's football, man. Yeah, look, they warmed up to it nicely. The new and the young kids got a good taste of it, and man, McCormick downfield mixing it up with Roquan Smith a couple of times, and a corner, and I think Marlon Humphrey on one of them, or Frazier was involved with Humphrey on one of them. They were going down. They were ready to be the more physical team in this game, and I think overall they were. I think 1-1. The Steelers were the more physical, aggressive team in this on both sides of the football.
I agree. I mean, I think it's always physical. I know Baltimore brought it too, but Pittsburgh was able to, I think, match and sustain that tone throughout the game. It's easy to come out and you're hyped and you throw the first punch, but how do you counterpunch? How do you take a punch? And Pittsburgh, I thought, did that really well in this one. And for the old heads, I'm not surprised. You're expected, but for some of the young guys to kind of keep going, Frazier, McCormick, Peyton Wilson defensively, even a second-year guy like Broderick Jones, who hasn't had a ton of Steelers-Ravens experience his third game. I know Jones did not have a great game overall, but I appreciate the way the O-line played because I think you have to play that way for Baltimore and probably need to play in a similar fashion against Cleveland on a short week.
All right. Thoughts on the play of Russell Wilson in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't super sharp overall. I thought Baltimore, and again, this is me without going into the all 22 yet, just watching the TV tape back. I thought Baltimore had a good plan. They were keeping things short, taking away the deep ball. The O line had some protection issues. Wilson couldn't really get a dodge and was under pressure pretty heavily in the first half. Play action not really working super effectively. They had one boot in the red zone that was taken away, forced to throw away. Russ with the interception. I know he's trying to let Darnell make a play, just got to eat that football and throw it away. I think Wilson overall has done a really good job this year, including the play before. I think about just throwing the ball away when it's not there. That's one where you press the issue a little too much, and given the situation up 15-10, field goal makes it a 8-point game there. You can't lose the lead. I'm okay with taking 3 there, but overall, Steelers Ravens, it's going to be tough. I think the Ravens, like I said, have a better secondary than some of the numbers and stats would indicate. Wasn't always going to be perfect for us. It wasn't going to be just good times forever and flawless performances or something really, really impressive. So enough to win, kept composure throughout, and I'll take it.
Yeah, you're probably a little bit more lenient on him than I am. I didn't think I was kind of disappointed in the play. I was disappointed in the offensive game plan overall. I thought as well too. Not a lot of open receivers in this one, especially the ones working down past 7 yards in this one. Russ gets in trouble when he holds that football too long. I mean, I think that's just the MO of where he's at right now in his career, and particularly in the red zone. Look, he was 23 of 36 in this game. How many of those were throwaways? 5? At least
Should have been
4.
6. Should have been another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a couple of them. Yeah, I don't think Wilson played well. He was on my losers list, and I think the game plan wasn't great. I think schematically, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I think guys need to work harder in scramble drills to get open. I think it's a little lackadaisical there. So, yeah, I don't think Wilson played well, but I just recognize you're playing a good defense. Some of these games are going to happen sometimes.
I thought on that pass over to the right side to George Pickens, that ended up being incomplete, obviously way too low. Pickens was open on that one. That should have been an easy pitching catch. I think
Pickens should have made that play. I know it's a little low, but that's Pickens, I think.
But there's no reason for it. Well, my contention is there's no reason for that throw to be that low. So
was he on the move on that play? I'm trying to think back.
I think he was on the move, but
so I know accuracy can weigh. I mean, it could be a better throw, but Pickens can make that catch.
I thought even a couple of the shorter throws out to the edge to the running back. This was some of those games. This reminded me of a couple of games that we've seen out of Russell Wilson against the Broncos, where not a lot of average depth of target, using the run, a lot of dump offs, a lot of screens, RPOs, wide receiver screens out to the side. The only real times that he kind of stretched the football down the field were I think a couple end zone shots to George Pickens. The best ball he obviously threw was the moon ball to George Pickens down the left sideline. That was a fantastic throw there. The seam, Darnell Washington. I didn't have Darnell Washington two seam balls down the middle in this one, but those were obviously great designs against the right defenses, and Darnell making good plays on that. Two good throws, 2 good plays on that one, but left a lot to be desired, and a lot of I think Russell Wilson probably at fault for a couple of the sacks there in this game. Pressure. The pressure is more obviously than what you'd like to see in a game, but I didn't think it was overly constant. It felt like it kind of came in waves. In fact, a couple of his sacks, I think 4 of his sacks, didn't they come like on almost like back-to-back plays type situations there? I didn't think the tackles played all that well in pass protection. Obviously, both Broderick Jones and Dan Moore. One of the incompletions was over the middle to Najee, and he dropped that one. There was that throw down in the low red zone. It would have gotten a first down to Van Jefferson that went off his hands there as well. The whole offensive game plan lacked a lot of fluidity. Even the running game even when it felt like they're making some waves there, they weren't consistently great on first down. Third downs obviously were a mess. Even one of the I think third downs that he converted to George Pickens was a ball that George had to reach out and make a nice play with Kyle Hamilton breathing down on him. And the running game, they kept, to their credit, they kept hammering it. Jaylen had a nice run or two. Najee, a real physical run off to the right side down in the lower red zone over there. But there was just it felt really, really clunky, and it felt like they were bound and determined to try to get protection to work the football down the field more, and the Ravens weren't having any of it. There's a lot, you'll see a lot, I think, and I looked at every drop back that he had in this game, and there were a lot of covered receivers in this game, like I said, on routes that went more than 7 yards down the field. So, and then Russell trying to extend a few plays didn't really work out overly well. He needed more oop than alley on the alley oop to Darnell. I know it's third down. I know he's just trying to make a play, and if he makes that play, we're screaming, boy, do you believe that play that Russell Wilson made? But in that kind of ball game, you got to come away in points to that ball should have been in the second row behind the end zone in that one. And I do understand you got a big guy in Darnell Washington boxing out per se, and I think he had a defender coming on him, so it wasn't like he could have just put that ball on a dime and let it be Darnell or nobody in that situation. But a huge mistake there that could have obviously made had a big impact in this game. But the Ravens, it looked like were plan on just not letting something go over their head in this one. Overall, the Steelers looked like they were headstrong in working off of play action and trying to get these guys on. A lot of times I think you see some 4 verts or at least some 3 verts and not or something flaring out to the side. And a lot of times Russell Wilson had, if he's going to complete a pass, had to either dump it off to the back or out to Pickens to the side in those situations. So obviously not Russell Wilson's worst game since he's been a starter here in Pittsburgh. And I think once you get into the all-22, you'll see a couple of those sacks probably go on him. And you just if teams are going to play you like that and be damn, bound and determined to not get, to have more of a shell on things, you've got to have the quick game, especially with a team that rushes well like the Ravens with just 4.
And you got to be able to run the ball when teams are playing too high. That's how you take away the deep balls to play too high. Now, Baltimore, again, a really good outfit, number 1 in run defense. So I kind of get why Pittsburgh didn't have the success that maybe some expected them to have, didn't have the output that Baltimore's given up in other games this year. But yeah, this is a Baltimore team that lost their game week 5 last year off of a, bringing the house in a one-on-one situation where Pickens beat Humphrey, and that was the game-winning score there. And so Baltimore knows Pittsburgh style, their tape, what's done in recent weeks. They want the one-on-one vertical shots. Russ is not going to hesitate. They tried it early in the game to Calvin Austin on 3rd and 1, and it's there. And Austin, it did go. Initially, I thought it was a little bit short, but I think Austin just has to make that catch. I don't know if I love the decision, 3rd and 1 deep shot there. I get if it works, people celebrate it, and Austin has to make the play. So maybe I'm just being scared here and too conservative, but I took that shot early, and there really wasn't a whole lot else available the rest of the game besides that 37-yard moon ball, which was a pinpoint throw from Wilson to Pickens. I mean, how many 5-yard curls did Pickens catch in this game? Like 5 of them. I mean, He caught a bunch of those underneath. And so I knew Baltimore was not really allowing stuff underneath. I think Pittsburgh could have adjusted better and schemed some more guys open, had some quicker hitting and design routes. So I don't think the game plan schematically was great. My big concerns in terms of the offense in this one is just the continued struggles in the red zone to be 0 for 4. And it happened on their field. It's actually gotten worse under Wilson. They're 7 of 18 in the red zone under Russell Wilson overall for the season. They're the 30th ranked red zone offense. Only Dallas and the Giants are worse. Not good company that you'd like to keep. And so that could be certainly a difference maker come playoff time if Pittsburgh is settling for field goals and the defense can't hold and make all the stands that they have been making when you're facing a Josh Allen or Mahomes or whoever you face in the playoffs. And so I know in that what the Giants game.
You might be able to win one playoff game 15 to whatever, in freezing cold or whatnot. But you've got to start punching the ball in more, especially some of the, they finally caught up with the Chiefs this week, didn't it? But the Bills are a good team. Baltimore's going to be in the playoffs. Herbert looked he looks like he's fully over that ankle injury. There's going to be some good teams in the playoffs that put up some points. So they have got to solve these red zone issues, and they were a lot better. Obviously, do they need to think about Justin Fields' red zone package moving forward? But when you do that, you're probably more reliant on his legs than you are his arm in those situations. And teams now, I think the last couple of games when the Steelers have had a little success throwing the football in the end zone, it's been kind of those pick rubs off to the side. And I think Baltimore had wised up about that. I think they kind of thought that if we're going to let Russell Wilson beat us with his arm in red zone, particularly low red zone, he's going to have to do it in the middle of the field, which is obviously not probably one of Russell Wilson's strong points.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is best beating man coverage down in the low red zone. I think Baltimore played a lot of zone and muddied up the picture and didn't have anything easy there for Rush. Yeah, could they use Fields in the red zone? I know that's already a talking point around Steelers circles. Sure, I'm not against it, but it's not the cure-all. It's not something you're going to use in every red zone trip. And red zone can be 1st and 10 from the 15. It's not always just goal to go, second and goal from the 1. It's not always those situations. So that's only one small component to kind of fixing their woes and improving as a red zone offense overall. I know the Giants game we kind of excused, and I still believe it. There was just a lot of funkiness happening there, but you just look at the long view of where they're at for the season, where they've been at for Wilson, his 4th start. It's not been good enough, and that's going to be one thing that holds this team back. Right.
About that Calvin Austin play, obviously, in a contested catch situation against a bigger guy, it's not ideal. Now he did, however, got a nice release and really somewhat 3/4 stacked him on the outside out there. Being Austin's stature and all like that, the ball's got to drop a little bit lower into there. Does George Pickens make that catch? Yes. Mm-hmm. Does anybody else on the Steelers, maybe Mike Williams, make that catch? Yeah, possibly there. I did wonder if that thing gets out there another 6 inches. You don't want to put it another 3 feet out there because you have the safety working over there. And if it's not better ball, if it's exaggerated better ball placement per se in that situation on that one to Austin, he's going to get walloped. I think by that safety coming over there, but it felt like that ball could have been another 6 inches out in front, would have made for a less contested catch on Austin's end over there. And then you roll back to the thing, what are you doing throwing on 3rd and 1? Ben Roethlisberger used to love if Ben saw single coverage on the outside on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 or 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 or whatnot. He had no issues going up top, and I don't so much have a problem with the process as much as I do the personnel and the execution there, because once again, if he drops it in there, we're going, well, you can, we're going back up. You remember when Ben used to do that a lot too and all, but you would think that. And look, I think a couple of those plays there's in third and short and 4th and short situations were same old Steelers type stuff. One of them was McCormick pulling right to left. I mean, mix that stuff up, man. When it comes to that, they were not good in 3rd down situations, specifically short yardage up until really the end of the game with the Najee run there. I just think the ball placement to the Austin throw could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I admit I'm probably being a little too critical of the decision. It's just, I think in a game where you want to really possess the football and keep Baltimore off the field, which to Pittsburgh's credit, they did. They ran 20 more plays, 74-54. They had the ball for 13 more minutes. That was the ultimate outcome. But early in the game, you don't know how the game's going to unfold. So I'm just looking for first downs, trying to get some rhythm going. Got Pickens open on the out route. Is that a better option? And the corner was kind of closing on the flat there. But also the deep balls to Calvin Austin on outside the numbers vertically have not been working. They didn't work last week. Didn't work against Baltimore. Maybe not the guy. Maybe not. I know he's fast, but maybe not the guy to throw those deep balls to, because they've just been really inefficient and not effective.
Let's see. One of the third down plays to Pickens, stepping out of bounds before the chains. There, they really needed that third down there. That's obviously not on Wilson there. But guys not named George Pickens, wide receivers not named George Pickens in this game had 3 catches for for 3 yards, right?
And that was Ben Skoranek leading the team behind. Calvin Austin and Jefferson combined for 3 targets, 1 catch for -1 yards. And so a lot of empty routes there. And Mike Williams, 25 snaps, no targets. I know there's some frustration about the lack of usage of him. It's still his second game. That's going to ebb and flow. I never expected Williams to be a volume guy. It was going to be more of a quality, not quantity. And I think we're a little spoiled from that big play against Washington. Not going to happen every single week. So we'll see how he's able to get integrated into this offense even more on a short week. But yeah, still feeling this offense lacking that extra weapon to really give themselves another target to throw to.
I guess they compensated the loss of Michael Pruitt by putting Ben Skoranek out there more on the field this time. Even saw him line up some in the fullback. I thought Skoranek played a pretty good game overall on the offensive side of things, especially for the amount of snaps he was asked to play. There had the 1 catch for 4 yards. Van Jefferson, we already talked about the 1 pass thrown his way in the low red zone he didn't have. Austin only had 2 targets. One of them was for -1 yards. I believe that was on a RPO to the right side, if I'm not mistaken. And the other target we just talked about down the deep left side. Trying to remember all these. I think Cordell Patterson was part of 2 running backs on the field with him lined out to the left. And I believe that may have been RPO as well.
I think that was the fake toss where they threw that tunnel screen back to Patterson, but similar idea.
Okay. And then obviously your running backs teamed up. I guess you call Patterson a running back. 8, 9 catches overall. Najee Harris, some good yards after contact. Jaylen Warren, good yards after contact there on that. So, we're back to the, until they find a way to integrate Mike Williams into this thing a little bit better, and they're going to have to do that. I know Mike Tomlin tried to brush it off of, new guys, still trying to learn about him, how to utilize them. The things that he allows, like Mike Tomlin said specifically, having guys like that open up things for Darnell Washington to run down the seam. But how many times it's great to see. I love seeing it, but how many times are we actually going to see that kind of stuff? I mean, if you see it, you got to hit it. You got to take advantage of it, obviously. But I don't think you can revolve around. Well, we having a guy like Mike Williams standing out there on the outsides going. We do that just because of what might happen because of it. They're going to have to find a way to get more production out of the wide receivers not named George Pickens in this thing. And look, I had no problems throwing kind of those 50-50 balls to George Pickens in the end zone, because that's what you got him for. I'm surprised he didn't come down with one of them in there. Him and who was that? Tre'Davious White, I think he was battling.
It was. Yeah, Trey White.
I was like, oh my God, they got him in the game there. That was one of them there. But what would have benefited, going back to Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith and the schematics and all on this, they would have been better served to change this thing up more at halftime, to have more of a quick passing game and try to utilize guys like Austin and Pickens running out in space a little bit more than what they did.
Agreed. That was my sense watching it through, and I haven't really gone back to rewatch the offense at all yet. So I need to really have a fine tooth comb through that. And we'll come back on Wednesday's show and hopefully have a little more detail, at least from me. I do think going back to the red zone, again, I'm fine with some situational field stuff there. Been open to it. Pittsburgh's using it in this game for the first time. Good with that. Just traditionally, though, they've not run the ball well in the red zone. I know that's tough real estate to run in, but you got some power backs. You got some mean people up front. Pittsburgh has to be able to show they can run the ball conventionally down low. And I think overall, I don't have all the numbers. I know in this game they weren't successful you got to be able to get that pile to move forward, break a tackle, and have more success than what Pittsburgh has had.
Yeah, I agree.
And then third down, 4-16 is just abysmal. They converted the key one late, and that was shouldn't have happened. Fields sliding short of the sticks there, but able to convert, and that's all well and good. But 4-16 on third down is going to lose you most games.
Yeah, and then you're 0-1 on fourth down, right? And then you pile on top of that 0 for 4 in the red zone. You're setting yourself up for a 6 field goal Chris Boswell game.
Did you like the call to go for it on that fourth down, even putting aside for the moment the actual design and what the play call was? But I should say the decision to go for it. Let me pull up exactly what that was. Where are we at here? 4th and 1, Pittsburgh's 46, 3:12 left in the first quarter. Pittsburgh up 3-0.
I had no issue going for it in that situation. I just think they had to be which one was that? Was that the guard pulling one?
That was the same play they had run against Washington on the goal line. They ran that twice. Not unbalanced, but Jones shifted over to left tackle. Anderson comes in at right tackle. G lead with McCormick pulling.
For a while there, remember when it seemed like you're either going to get a shovel pass or Derrick Watt?
Oh God!
Where it became kind of predictable in some of those situations, you're going to get the shovel pass to either Juju or Freiermuth or fullback dive with Derrick Watt. It just go to something else there and not a toss.
Yeah, not a toss. The question is, though, when do you stop going to something that's working? Because it worked against Washington on their 2 attempts. I mean, so it's a healthy discussion. I mean, I get the critique of you're doing the same exact thing. What I think the big issue is that Pittsburgh was so rushed to that play. They didn't break the huddle until there was less than 10 seconds left. They got up to the line with 5 seconds left. When you're hurried and you're rushed on that play, you're not getting a good look at the defensive front and kind of just locking in. It's just messy from the beginning. So I think it just took too long to either decide on if we're going to go for it. What's the call? They broke the huddle way too late. You got the line, with time really running out. When you're hurried in those big time moments, bad things happen.
Right.
That was my issue with the play. I had no issue with the play call or the decision. I just think it was really sloppy execution from a procedure operation standpoint.
Okay. I would agree with that.
Anything else here offensively in this one, Dave? Without Washington, nice game, good run blocking. Warren ran hard despite having that back injury. His contact balance is just pretty ridiculous. Anything else? Any other impressions here offensively?
I thought in the interior of the offensive line played a lot better than the edge, than both the tackles did on this. Once again, I think they got him a pair there in Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick. Those guys are physical. Those guys are typical Steeler interior offensive linemen. I thought Sayamalo had a good game overall, especially in the run game department. They just couldn't get you. It's one of those things where I think they were thinking if we just keep pounding away, we're going to pop something there and wear them down later in the game. And call it what you will during that final possession and mixing things up and bringing Justin Fields in. I thought that was smartly done, even though we all knew what was coming, I think, in those situations. And look, you got yourself into a situation where you needed 1 yard to win the ball game, and they were able to get that 1 yard.
Yeah, let's talk Justin Fields package used 3 times in this game. Once on, I believe, 2nd and 11 in the second half. It was a design quarterback power. The Fields got 8 on, nicely designed. And then the 2 at the end, both zone reads. When Fields took the ball and took it himself on that second down play.
I thought it was game.
I said game. I no one in particular, just in my own office, just going, that's game. He had the edge and then he slid. He's taking first down. So I wondered if he thought he just misjudged where the marker was at. It wasn't of him. I think he knows about the slide rule where you start your slide is where you're down. So I think he just thought he was good at that point, and fortunately didn't hurt the team with Najee getting that tough yard at the end when they go back to that zone read. Actually, it was funny. They came out on third down initially with Russ out there and what they called timeout, I think, and then put Fields back out there instead. So kind of changed their mind last second, all worked out. But yeah, all for using Fields a little bit. And, I just, thought it was good to finally see, good to make sure the teams don't forget about it, that, hey, we can do this, force teams to prepare for it, and good use of situational football.
I thought he had the first down until he started getting into that slide. Something interesting here about I short week. You're probably not going to. And I thought it was interesting. Mike Tomlin talked about you have to decide how much same stuff are you going to run, how much new stuff can you get all that in on a short week against an opponent that knows you quite well. Going on a road in a hostile environment, there's a lot of decision making to be made because of all those factors there. And then you look over to see what the Saints did with Taysom Hill and some of the stuff I've peeked at with what they did. Taysom Hill had 7 for 138, and I imagine a lot of those with him lined up in kind of wildcat within there. So might be a good week to run some of the have your Justin Fields package in this game. We got a few days to worry about that though. But I was glad to see it. We've talked about the possible Justin Fields package for a little bit here. My main takeaway, I know it's if teams are going to defend the Steelers the way they defended them on Sunday against the Ravens, there you got to have a more rhythmic passing game underneath. Second of all, you got to figure out this red zone stuff. If that involves putting Justin Fields in there, even though you know what that's probably going to entail with him keeping or playing some zone read stuff in that, so be it. If it can help maybe widen things there, they've got to figure this red zone stuff out because it almost cost them the ball game here against the Ravens.
And you can still throw with Fields. He was starting quarterback for 6 games. And so I think you'll see some passes eventually in those situations because there'll be a time where defenses really key in on the run when Fields is in. And then you're gonna hit him with one of those Ravens-like passes where you're going to fake a quarterback power and toss it over the top. I bet you're going to see that at some point this season. You're right. It was really interesting from Tomlin. I don't have the transcript in front of me, but he made a reference to basically saying, like, you can't just do your base install stuff. You got to do some different things, especially versus those known familiar opponents. So it kind of hinted at saying we're not gonna just go into this game saying, okay, we're gonna run our core stuff. We're gonna keep it simple. He seemed to be hinting at you got to kind of mix it up. And so I'm curious to see how that manifests itself and looks like on Thursday.
Well, it's way too early for this. We're going to see more than 5 snaps from a Justin Fields package against the Saints. I say yes.
It's hard to say. I don't think the Hill thing really is going to impact Pittsburgh much. They know what they have in Fields and what that is capable of doing. So I don't think, what success the Saints did or did not have is going to impact it. Although you're right, Hill went off 3 touchdowns, big day. I'm sure Cleveland is going to be working on that this week on their limited practice time. So to answer your question, I will say yes, but it is so game flow dependent.
Okay. Anything else offensively in this one, at least pre all 22?
Yeah, Broderick Jones, couple of penalties, had 2 in that one drive, got some Denver shades there. The pass pro wasn't good. Again, I like his energy. I thought he had good energy against Washington. Thought he did against Baltimore. So you're seeing some strides there. Tomlin very much defending Broderick Jones post-game
he ain't going
presser,
anywhere.
Which they don't have a choice. I mean, there really is not. You could do Spencer Anderson, but it's going to be Broderick Jones with Fautanu out for the regular season. And I think he's made the point that he's still a really young guy. He pointed out he's younger than Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier, who are literal rookies. And so just let the season play out and hope it gets better and hope it continues forward. Was a good game against Washington, took a step back against Baltimore. Let the season play out and go from there.
And so many words, Mike Tomlin says, we're putting a stick in our mouth and we're biting down on it, We're going to take the short-term misery and hope of long-term, satisfaction here.
Special teams, Dave, of course, as you mentioned, everyone knows Chris Boswell, 6 for 6, including 3 from 50 plus, a difference maker in this game, tied his season long with a 57-yard field goal that would have been good from 60 plus. And on a day where it's Justin Tucker and Chris Boswell, normally those matchups are highlighted by Justin Tucker just because he's been doing it a bit longer and has more name recognition. But Tucker missing 2, Boswell making all 6, and don't want to have to keep kicking field goals. But if you have to, you're happy to have Bos to do them on your side.
And what's that stat? Second game this year that they have not scored a touchdown and won. And what was the other stat about games that they've won? That I put up from the NFL release. Hold on, I'll pull that up real quick here.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's one of the stats I had in Stat of the Weird, but since in the Tomlin era, so 2007 to present, Pittsburgh is 5-10 in games in which they do not score a touchdown. So they're winning 1/3 of their games. Compare the rest of the NFL, their success in games in which they do not score a touchdown in that same time frame. They are 39, 544-1, a 7% win percentage. And so Pittsburgh, as only the Steelers can do, is win those games that most teams do not.
All right, a few platitudes here, if you will. Boswell is the first player in NFL history with 6 made field goals in 3 career games, and joined John Carney, 1993, is the only kickers with multiple such games within a season all time. Here's the other one I was going to get to. Per the NFL release, Pittsburgh became the 5th team since 2000 to win multiple games in a season without scoring a touchdown, joining the 2016 St. Louis Rams, 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2000 Baltimore Ravens, and 2000 Tennessee Titans.
Some good defenses on that list. Some good defenses. The Buccaneers, which Mike Tomlin was the coach, a coach of, and the 2000 Ravens. And we're seeing the Steelers in 2024. Not at that level, but a pretty good defense.
Right. So interesting tidbit from the NFL. One other thing from the NFL release, TJ Watt recorded his 104th career sack in the win, the 4th most sacks by a player in his first 8 seasons since 1982. He has at least 1 sack in 66 career games, tied with blah blah blah. Anyway, just continues to put up eye-popping numbers when it comes to sacks there.
And if you include playoffs, Chris Boswell has 4 games with 6 field goals or more. Nobody else, regular season, postseason combined, have more than 2 in their career. And he is on pace to finish with 49 field goals this year, which would shatter the NFL single season record, which I've stated for several weeks now, of 44, set by David Akers in 2011. Again, can only celebrate that stat maybe so much because you want more touchdowns and field goals, but that is the number on Boswell, who will likely win AFC Special Teams Player of the Week and maybe of the month. He's probably trending in that direction right now. Quick preview on that. He's won it twice this year, won it in October and September. If he wins it in November, will become only the 2nd player ever to win Player of the Month Special Teams 3 times in a season, joining our favorite Mike Vanderjagt of the Colts in 2003, who did it, I think, October, November, and December. But anyway, point is, Boswell is fantastic, and we're very happy to have him.
They're going to have to pay him after this season. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and he's outside of the top 10 in highest paid kickers at this point. Just doesn't seem too long ago that he was the highest paid kicker for a couple of weeks there. His average yearly value $5 million right now, and like I said, he's outside the top 10. Harrison Butker at $6.4 million. So assuming no other kickers get paid between now and time for after this season, Boswell probably going to be average yearly value of 6.5 to 6.8 million during the offseason.
Yeah, he's going to go back to number 1 and really kind of blank check status. What's Fairbairn status in Houston? He's having a great
5.3, and he's I think 8th or 9th.
Did he just sign or something?
Let me see where he signed.
I'm just spitballing,
2026.
Okay, when did he sign that contract?
It looks like 2024.
Oh, he just signed it. Okay, so he's not going to get a new deal. So I'm just spitballing what other kickers may potentially get extensions or look for deals, but Boswell will be one of those guys and will become the highest paid kicker, as he should. He'll be worth every single penny.
Anything else on special teams stick out?
Corliss Waitman, great game for him. I know that gets overshadowed by the great job that Boz did, but his average, what was his average in this game? I had the stat and I just lost it, but he had 4 punts in this one. Good job by the coverage team overall. I can find where the stats are at. 4 punts, average 56.5 yards per punt. That is the 2nd highest average ever by a Steelers punter with at least 4 punts in a game. Just fell shy of the record by our old friend Bobby Joe Green. And Corliss Waitman sitting at 47.2 yards per punt on the season. If that number holds, that will be a single season record, breaking that long-standing since 1961 mark of one Bobby Joe Green. And so we're on Waitman watch for the couple of records there in Pittsburgh, and as a holder, a great job. It's tough when you're coming in mid-season for a holder like that. I know he's been with a team before, but Boswell not missing a beat, and the punting team not missing a beat after losing Cameron Johnston.
How many times in a game do you see two punts of 70 yards or longer?
It's a good stat of the weird question. Yeah, I guess now that was the one that rolled in. They both rolled in.
Oh,
The
they
end zone.
both. Yeah, they
Yeah,
both.
so
But I mean, how many times do you even see that?
yeah, not too often. Stout had one of 70 and Waitman one of 70. When I thought Pittsburgh was going to have one good return, I think it was later in the game, second half, they were setting up a safe return. They had double vice the Gunners, and the Jammers did a great job of holding the Gunners at bay, but it was a great punt by Stout, and there really was no good return off of that. Pittsburgh scared me for a second on one of the punts. They kind of acted like they were going to do something. Moon and
they
Skoranek.
They took the wings out and then they brought them back in.
I was very happy when they brought him back in. Some scars of the Commanders game, but yeah, overall special teams was fantastic. Baltimore had multiple penalties, I think, on special teams, and so again, penalizing themselves. Field position battle with turnovers, everything included, certainly went Pittsburgh's way.
All right. I think we whipped through this pretty good now. Now on to what Mike Tomlin had to say on Monday morning.
Yeah, kind of recap some of it. The injury standpoint, team pretty healthy overall. Benton seems good to go. Porter seems fine. Could get Pruitt and Trice back. Highsmith probably will not play. Mentioned the Mike Williams stuff. Mentioned Tomlin pretty transparent about the interception. Just said he hoped that they wished that Russ hadn't thrown it, which I'm with him on there. Anything else notable for Mike Tomlin?
High praise for Nick Herbig, and with good reason. High praise for Chris Boswell, with good reason. We already covered what he had to say about Broderick Jones. He defended Minka again, saying he has no issue with the way he's playing. And you're not giving up things over your head, and he highlighted how Cam Sutton gives the ability for Minka to move around a little bit more, and he thinks that the turnovers will come at some point, and hopefully they will, because that's the only right now that's the only as look, I understand this has become a talking point. Why hasn't Minka taken the football away and all like that? Well, people are purposely really avoiding him overall. There's been a couple that obviously, I mean, you go back to that one, what was it, against the Colts, right? If that ball's an inch higher to, was it Pierce or one of
Pittman.
those Pittman or right over the head of Joey Porter, I think. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck on your side with some of these things, and unfortunately, though, the all pro honors and all like that are tied to oftentimes takeaways. But there are still a couple of games left this season. You got Jameis Winston coming up. How nice would it be to get for Minka to get off the snide, if you will, and get a couple against the Browns to get people off his back there. But I have no issue with the way Minka's playing. I know you don't either. When it comes to that, it's just people box score stat this thing to death and say, why doesn't he have 5 takeaways on the season? And there's something wrong with him. So look, the defense is playing well. They were the prime reason why this team beat Baltimore on Sunday. And if he doesn't get any interceptions for the rest of the season, and defense limits teams to 17 or fewer points, then he's doing his job out there.
Yeah, still great tackler, super underrated part of his game, good communicator. As you said, teams don't throw deep in his real estate because of his presence. I do recognize the interception streaks were almost 2 calendar years, so it has been a long time. And I gave a couple completions on a couple of good balls against Mark Andrews, the one corner out, the one third down crosser. So, maybe it's not going to be his best season ever. I think it's probably safe to say, but still really happy with his game overall. And I'll just say this as well. There was a lot of talk. You heard it the first 4 or 5 weeks. So Patrick Queen, where's the splash? Why isn't he taking the football away? You got to be patient. These things will ebb and flow. Sometimes they come in bunches, and Queen making splash the last 2 games. So we'll see if the same happens with Minka Fitzpatrick.
Look, Patrick Queen, 10 total tackles to lead the Steelers in this game. He was all over the place. He was doing a good job running the center of the field on cover 2. Tampa 2 type situations, really attacking the football, obviously took a football away. He was amped up for this one, obviously, against his former team. Mike Tomlin, I thought it was a great decision to make him a captain out there to get him even geared up even more for this one overall. So a great performance, and he's got the W and the bragging rights and everything that goes along with that, because obviously he felt slighted by not even getting really an offer from the Ravens, leaving in free agency there. And I mean, what more do you? The guy's getting more comfortable and more comfortable by the game in that Steelers defense. So kudos to him.
Absolutely. Really happy for him. And he's trending in the right direction at the right time. Thought the whole inside linebacker group did well. Peyton Wilson did well. And the Landon Roberts. That all 22 will be fun. We're just watching him thump around. There was that one play, got filled in the alley on Derrick Henry. And it's hard to tell from the TV tape, but I know the all 22 will show a really good pop there. So just the entire linebacker play, whether it was Watt, Herbig, the off ball guys, really, really, really good stuff in the interior of that defense.
I thought Ogunjobi did a few nice things in this one.
It's still been kind of quiet, a little inconsistent, but it's been, I'd say, pretty good year, relatively speaking, for Ogunjobi.
We talked about Lowry getting a bat down in this one. Cam Hayward had some nice several quick wins in this one as well too. Defense good on them.
All right, Dave. Anything else? If not, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's take a gander here at what we got in the box today. Great work by Josh. This one from Brogan. Great work by Josh filling in for Dave Friday, but I missed Dave's weekly pick for the game. Maybe this was covered earlier. I had the Ravens winning by 1 point in this one. What did I have?
Forget the score. Was it 20?
27-26 or 28-27, something like that. I had in there, but I thought it was going to be a higher scoring game overall, and I thought the Ravens would do enough to pull it out there. So I was wrong. I think Alex picked the Steelers to win this one. Did Josh pick the Steelers to win?
Yes, we both picked Pittsburgh to win. I was super not confident in my pick. My head said take Baltimore. I felt like they just had they were like Washington but better. But just given Pittsburgh's success and winning close games and just having Lamar's number just made me go Pittsburgh. But just really a true 50-50 guess.
I had the Steelers covering.
There you go.
Good teams win, great teams cover, right?
It's a great team then.
Cameron Andrews writes in, Happy Victory Monday. Monday. Thank you for all that you do for Steelers Nation. Alex, you missed a game for your stats of the weird with games for your stats of the weird for wins without a touchdown. The Atlanta game this season, also with it being short week and JPJ possibly in he says concussion protocol. No, I think that's the shin with JPJ. Could see Trice this week or Cam Sutton. For starters, it doesn't sound like you have to worry about Joey Porter Jr. I don't think it's concussion. I think it's bruised shin or something like that with him.
Contusion.
Okay. He says, Alex, you missed a game for your stats of the weird for wins without a TV. He says the Atlanta game this season.
No, I apologize. I worded it poorly. Those things get written late at night, as you can imagine, after the whole recap of everything is done. That what I was trying to say was they have 4 such games and they have a playoff game, which they've won without a touchdown. So 5 total. That's reflected in the stat I have later about them being 5-10 under Tomlin in games where they do not score a touchdown. So I knew the Atlanta game. I just did not. I should have worded that better. I think we've updated the language on that. So apologize. But yeah, I knew there was. I knew the Atlanta game.
All right. Paul Brown writes in, great win. I wanted to bring up a big picture thought about the season. Get your opinion. Tomlin absolutely deserves to be in the running for coach of the year. So far, everyone in the front office leaned towards sticking with Fields, but Tomlin made the bold call to jumpstart the offense with Wilson. It wasn't a popular decision at the time, but the Steelers haven't looked back since. The team stays calm under pressure, unlike, say, the Bengals, and consistently delivers excellent halftime adjustments. We've made I think we both made our thoughts clear on Tomlin and Coach of the Year. You cannot have a conversation about Coach of the Year right now for 2024 without Mike Tomlin's name being involved in it. However, you got a half a season left, and if he doesn't win the AFC North, I don't see how you can give him Coach of the Year. So far, so good. He definitely should be in the talk of that. Look, I mean, this obviously wasn't Russell Wilson's best game. It was his worst of the 4 starts so far. I mean, it was a bold decision on his part and all like that. And look, he mentions the Bengals in there. What a wild game that was last night. The Chargers almost nobody wanted to hold the other person's beer in that game in the fourth quarter. Boy, the Bengals are in tough shape right now, aren't they? 4-7. They have to win out now just to go 10-7. And 2 of those games against the Steelers. So had they won that game, that could have been that would have been probably a huge turning point there, but they didn't. So the Steelers are the only team in the AFC North to win. How
and
great!
Missed 2 field goals. The Ravens missed 2, the Browns missed 2, and the Bengals missed 2. Combined, their kickers went 3 for 9. Pittsburgh went 6 for 6, and that is a difference maker.
Kevin writes in.
Can I just say 2 quick things? One thing I did get wrong. I apologize. I think on last Wednesday's show, I said that Chuck Noll never won Coach of the Year. He did in 1989 after that 0-2 start. The blowout losses 51-0 to Cleveland. I think 45-0 to the Bengals. They came back, made the playoffs, and so I apologize. I was wrong about that. If Tomlin does, though, win the AFC North, have a good end of the season, whatever that looks like, even if not necessarily 1 seed, but something very close. Is he not a lock for Coach of the Year at that point?
I think. I mean, who else?
I mean, there's candidates. There's Dan Quinn in Washington. If they kind of get out of the skid that they're on right now.
Here's
Jonathan
the thing.
Gannon in Arizona.
Here's the thing working against Mike Tomlin come time to vote for that stuff. Nobody will remember all the preseason predictions of this team's going to finish last in the AFC North, going to go 6-11. Mike Tomlin, of course you expect Mike Tomlin to have an over 500 season. That will become the narrative against him just because of his winning record for his career. You see what I'm saying there? So
hurt by his own success.
Right. He'll be good. That's a perfect way to put it there. Hurt by his own success will become the narrative because nobody will remember that the predictions for this team, which seem to be pretty global for the most part, prior to the season started. So look, I think he's done it. Look, I had this team going 9-8. They should blow past that number. And I had said a couple of weeks ago, I think 12 seemed to be the ceiling. I mean, you look at the Browns now, you look at what kind of shape of the Bengals are going to be in. Kansas City's, even though they had the record that they had, they're beatable in my opinion. What Philly team you're going to get show up? I mean, that's it, right? So. I mean, bless me.
Bless you. And the Ravens again in week 16, just to finish that up schedule. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it might be too early to talk about running the table, but look, this team's in great shape. This team, props to him. He's coached the living hell out of this team.
Yeah, pundits won't remember the preseason predictions, but they'll remember the switch from Fields to Wilson. It was the top story for that whole week about making the switch, and he was criticized, by myself included, about making that switch. I was probably less critical than others, but I would have stuck with Fields if I had my druthers in that decision. And so people won't forget that. Yeah, typically I think the award still goes to the underdog, the team that turns it around. And so could it be Jonathan Gannon in Arizona? No one talks about the Cardinals and how good they've been this year. How about Harbaugh with the Chargers, with their success and their turnaround? Would that be a name as well? Dan Quinn in Washington, but Tomlin's got to be at the least right on up there. It's been just a great job overall by him.
Look, we're talking about too many times on this pod. We're giving these people too much. We're telling them how wrong we are.
We should do that less. We should just be more right.
Right. We're losing the credibility here, brother.
No, yeah. Also, should note, and I know it's down the road, but it's important because it is kind of a one game at a time thing. Pittsburgh can be the 1 seed if hypothetically, if they win out, which I know is a lofty goal, but if they do, they will be the 1 seed because they'll beat the Chiefs in that process and have tiebreaker over Buffalo. So even if that doesn't happen, if the Chiefs and Bills falter, I doubt that any of these teams will truly win out the rest of the season. If Pittsburgh can beat the Chiefs, let's just assume they do for a second that they can knock them off on Christmas Day. Let's also hope that we can watch that game, given how Netflix had plenty of issues for the Tyson Paul fight. Pittsburgh will be in true contention for that number 1 seed.
They will indeed. All right, this one from Kevin writes in, we have our bishop and we've captured the Ravens queen. Who's playing chess and who's playing checkers?
I like it.
All right, Kevin, good. Witty. Zach Stevens, Uncle Dave and Brother Alex, happy Victory Monday. A few thoughts and questions. I don't mind the decision to hold the timeout and run the clock down when the Ravens had the ball before the half. Feels like 1 minute with 3 timeouts would be ample time to maneuver in position for a field goal, but also limits time remaining for the opponent if they got the ball back. I heard a lot of chatter from fans disagreeing with me here. What'd you think about that situation there?
I didn't have as strong a reaction of why Tomlin didn't take a timeout after I think that first and goal run that went down to the 1 and the clock kept rolling. I probably would have taken the timeout, but I just truthfully did not have a strong feeling one way or the other.
I didn't either in that situation, and I wouldn't even remember talk about that had Zach not brought it up. Number 2 is Jaylen Warren sure does have a special nose for the line needed to gain. If he's anywhere close to the line to gain, feels like he gets the spot needed regardless of how many defenders are in the path. Yeah, he does have a knack of knowing where the chains are. I will agree there. Look, Najee had a nice run late, down red zone. Najee's good after, especially out on the edge or out, past the line of scrimmage, yards after contact, and that's been the way for him for a while now. Why didn't they pick up his 5th-year option? My God.
Yeah. Biggest mistake I think they made this last season.
Number 3, what was Henry's run success rate yesterday? I haven't looked at it. Take away the 31-yard run, and he only went for 34 yards on 12 carries. Feels like he was priority 1 for the defensive game plan. We covered really kind of what we thought, the game plan might or was in that situation there, and it was just having that front kind of be a little bit thick overall, and just make sure kind of loosely cover the zone read while making sure that you don't let Henry gash in. Henry did get the long run for 34 for 31 in that, but and he had another one for like, I don't know, 7, 12 or something like that. But they did a very good job. That front did of corralling both 2 dangerous players in Jackson and Henry. Lastly, he says the Browns game on Thursday is a near must win. He says can't afford to give up the pole position for the division that this team has worked so hard for. Ravens lost to the Browns early in the season. Sure does loom large now. I'm not going to say a must win, but it's one that you probably should win. It would be a huge letdown coming off of such a talked about game against the Ravens, big game, AFC North kind of measuring stick, blah, blah, blah. And then to turn around and lose, on a short week to the Browns on the road would be very, very, very disappointing. Yes, they do control their own destiny. But once again, I don't want to look, this team's making the playoffs. So, if you want to talk about near must win as far as, possible get, home field of any sort. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I think it's probably being a little hyperbolic, but I wouldn't call this near must win. It would suck to lose, obviously, for all the reasons you mentioned. And listen, I hadn't thought about the Browns game a whole lot, but it'd be a tough game. On the road, short week, AFC North matchup, coming off the Ravens game, that, like you said, highly emotional. Guys trying to get back up and ramp back up in a short time for a Browns team that is, Jameis Winston. He had 400 passing yards yesterday and 2 touchdowns. The points went there. The kicker missed a couple of kicks, but that offense can move the football. And Winston's super volatile and flighty, so you can have a terrible game too. But no guarantee in this one for sure. Derrick Henry had a 53.8 run success rate.
Not bad.
Ranked 13th out of 28
Not
running
awful.
backs yesterday who had at least 10 carries. Yeah, a pretty good day for him from that metric, but only 13 carries. You did not let this guy write the headline of the day, mostly because he didn't have the opportunity to, because they were on the sidelines and they got behind late and had to play catch up. So 13 carries. Put the other numbers aside. If you told me Derrick Henry had 13 carries in this game, I'd be happy to limit his touches, to limit the war of attrition, to limit the fourth quarter ability to pop one for 80 yards. Good job overall.
Yeah, just 13 he didn't have any targets in this game. No.
I don't know if he had targets, but 13 carries. I don't think he got used in the pass game.
For some reason, I thought I heard Get Up say something like 18 touches or something, but he only touched the ball 13 times. So
yeah, and some of that's because Baltimore was playing from behind late in the game, so Hill was out there. Henry was weirdly not on the field for the 2-point play. I think Harbaugh talked about that and didn't have a great answer for it. But yeah, I don't know why Derrick Henry would not be out there on your most important play of the game to at least give the illusion of giving him the football.
Sure. All right. I wanted to hit this. I know we're running along. I want to hit this one last thing from Tomlin. Him saying, was he daring Steeler Nation to take over the Browns Stadium? He went out of his way saying, look, I'm not so sure we're going to get a takeover like we did, several times on the road against Vegas and Atlanta and hell, where else? Where haven't they taken over this year?
Yeah, seriously.
If you're a Raven, let me tell you, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan right now and you're sitting at 2-8 and you're getting into the the colder part of the year here, and it's right around Thanksgiving, Christmas is coming, you're selling those tickets to anybody that wants to give you above face value for them, aren't you?
I don't know. They've been through worse. I mean, they've gone through winless seasons. The dog pound, to their credit. Don't tell anyone I told you this, but the Browns fans are pretty good faithful. So, I mean, I think Tomlin, yeah, a little bit of motivation maybe, but I imagine it's still going to be primarily Browns fans out there Thursday night.
I don't know. I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of more terrible towels there than normal. So I don't think it's obviously going to be to the degree, but all those reasons I mentioned, obviously it is a primetime game, national television, blah, 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 all Thursday night. Maybe that'll even factor into it. People say, I got to go to work. Do Browns fans have jobs? I don't know.
I don't know. I think they're just happy that Deshaun Watson's not starting, and that's energized them a little bit. But yeah, they'll definitely be Steeler fans. But as you said, as Tomlin said, it won't be like the some of the other venues Pittsburgh's walked into. It'll be a tough place to play.
All right, we got some all 22 to cram, both from the Ravens game and the Browns game. We hope to have a beat writer on the Wednesday show. We'll look at the injury report. Short week. Makes it trying, but we got great jobs, don't we, Alex? Get to watch and talk about football for a living, even though we're occasionally wrong.
Only occasionally, yeah. Also, a live stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Dave and I will be on YouTube, and you can follow there if you have any other questions or want to hang out with us a little bit more today.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions there. Once again, shout out to Alex and Josh Carney for handling things on Friday there. I certainly do appreciate that. Life sometimes gets in the way. So hopefully people can make it to the live stream on Monday night. And if not, we'll talk to you on Wednesday. And with that, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.